Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Coresight's Open for Business, Future of Retail and the Consumer. Today's special guest is Chris Baldwin, Chairman of BJs Wholesale. We'll now turn it over to Deborah Weinswig, CEO and founder of Coresight Research.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Open for Business. I'm your host, Deborah Weinswig, CEO and founder of Coresight Research, and I am joined by Chris Baldwin, Chairman of BJs Wholesale Club. Today, we are going to discuss the future of retail technology, the new normal in retail, and the importance of diversity and inclusion. Coresight has hosted over 50 digital events since March 1st. Coresight researches the topics of tomorrow with impact for today, and we've been advising our retail technology, and real estate clients in this unique environment. Open for Business is a platform to provide insights to the industry from thought leaders like Chris Baldwin. We are honored to introduce Chris, who has a deep background in all things retail and consumer. He joined BJs Wholesale Club in September 2015 and most recently served as chairman and CEO. Prior to joining BJs, he was CEO of Hess Retail, and before Hess Retail, he held executive roles at Kraft Foods and the Hershey Company, as well as various roles at Nabisco and P&G. Chris is also very active in the community, serving as an executive board member at Harlem Lacrosse, a school-based nonprofit that provides educational intervention, leadership training, and lacrosse for at-risk youth. In addition, Chris is a true thought leader in the retail industry and serves on the board of the NRF, the world's largest retail trade association. He is always there to question the status quo and collaborate to help the retail industry look ahead to the opportunities and challenges of tomorrow. I am truly honored to have Chris here with us today. For those in the audience, thank you for joining us, and please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen if you would like to ask a question during the call. And if you would like an opportunity to watch this webinar again, please visit Coresight Events for a video and transcript. So Chris, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Deb, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here with you. I hope you're safe and well.
Thank you, definitely. So when the crisis began, how did BJ's Wholesale Club alter its, if you will, kind of day-to-day operations to keep customers and employees safe? And how have these efforts continued to evolve? Because this is really critical for the future of retail and the current situation.
Well, how many books will be written about what happened on March 10th, 11th, and 12th? I think that the seminal moment was in the country was that Friday, which I believe was March 13th, the day on which the NBA season was canceled. That seemed to create a little bit of a different tenor to the discussion. But in our company, I'm incredibly proud of our 27,000 employees and how they reacted in the face of incredible adversity. As a company, our primary objective as the crisis started to unfold was to keep our team members and our members safe. And we changed just about everything and accelerated all of the work you could imagine we would have done in sanitation protocols, adding PPE to the system, putting floor layout mapping stickers on the floors. We went to one-way aisles in some clubs. We put up sneeze guards at our cash registers. We sent home on March 12th. We basically closed our offices in Westborough, Massachusetts, which is just west of Boston, and we have about 1,000 people who work there, and they have yet to be back, and we don't expect them to be back until sometime in the fall. And if so, if they do come back, it will be in a very different construct than the one we left in March. So we have tried to stay in lockstep with the CDC and the industry overall. We've been very aggressive in that regard, and we spent an awful lot of money to make sure both our team members and our members were safe.
Chris, you've been very involved in the NRF. What kind of protocols and how have they stepped in to support the industry?
If you go to NRF.com, they have Open Doors is a body of work that the NRF has led with multiple factions in the industry to bring together best practices to the extent you can have them in a world that is somewhat uncertain, that will help retailers of all sizes and shapes open safely when they choose to open. Actually, last Friday, Deb, I spent some time with Matt Shea and Marla Beck, the founder and CEO at Blue Mercury, with 30 or 40 Congress people talking about what are the protocols that are necessary to have small business open. It is my view that the American economy is so dependent on small business. 96% of the retailers in the United States have less than 50 employees. And we have a responsibility at NRF to help them as best we can. If you think about the challenges small business will face to reopen, NRF is trying to give them some guidelines on the protocols necessary to do that safely. You just think, Deb, if you and I owned a business anywhere in the United States in March that we wanted to reopen now, we'd be facing higher labor costs. I know we're paying people a lot more than we used to. We'd be facing the costs associated with buying PPE for those employees if you had a consumer-facing business. If we happen to be in a business that sold food, protein prices are up about 20% since then, and we would have to do all those things in the face of capacity limitations. In most cities, restaurants are only able to use half their space. So NRF has been a real voice to government to try and give them a sense of what we're doing to help the industry open up again.
Chris, you talk about investing, and it's interesting because we often think of NRF as, kind of real thought leaders when it comes to retail technology. So there's now two issues. One, for larger retailers, they've been able to make the necessary investments and also kind of rethink their technology roadmap. For the smaller retailers, right, that therein lies kind of a lot of opportunity, but also, once again, continuous challenges and, potentially not having the capabilities to invest. How do you kind of juxtapose those challenges, and are there opportunities for smaller businesses as well as a result?
Sure. I think that, it's interesting, Deb, how many of us would have thought 6 months ago that the primary marketing message for retailers to be successful in the summer of 2020 would be, it's safe to come in our store. I think one of the things that small business is really good at is personal connections with their customers. There are some really, really smart people running small businesses in the United States who have deep connections with their customers. And it is my contention that the biggest leadership challenge as an industry is our ability to be more empathetic and put ourselves in the shoes of our customers, and in our case, our members, in order to give them an environment that they feel good about being a part of. So I think small business is particularly good about that, and we all need to be better in that regard. But there's no question, it's going to be very challenging for many small businesses to deal with the economic uncertainty associated with this pandemic.
It's interesting. We've talked to a lot of companies who've said, they're rethinking kind of demand forecasting, assortment optimization, these challenges around having product on the shelf, and it goes beyond just wanting to, to be able to sell product to your customer, but also to drive consumer confidence. Can you help us understand kind of where BJ's is on this journey?
Yeah. Everything has changed. So, the performance the company is delivering now. So in the first quarter, we're a company that grows 2 to 4% typically, ex-pandemic, pre-pandemic. In the first quarter, we grew by 27%. And at some level, the investments we've made in our company over the last 5 years all paid off in a crisis moment for our country, our industry, and our company. So everything from how we think about things like apparel, we've been public about the fact that we grew by 27%, but our apparel business in the first quarter was down 30%. So everything else was up by a lot more than that. So assortment changes, I think we'll end up being a simpler company coming out of this. I believe we'll end up being much more technologically driven. Our delivery business grew by 8-fold in the quarter, and our online business overall well more than tripled. Those are investments we made 4 and 5 years ago. So I think we're on a path to continue to get smarter and more detailed in how we think about personalization. I believe we'll become more focused on technology and how we can get to the customer where they choose to shop with us. And I do believe some categories will see some fairly substantial changes in how club stores overall approach them.
Well, and clubs have such a unique opportunity because of the data on the consumer. I've always been surprised when, I'm getting mailings about having a cat when I have a dog. I have two dogs. But therein lies, and of course we want consumers to opt into that, but what do you see as kind of the holy grail of personalization, and how does that change how the consumer interacts with the retailer?
Yeah, I think, in our company 5 years ago, every member got the same marketing materials. And I'm very different than a 30-year-old member in North Carolina. So to your point, I think the holy grail for us is, we have 5.5+ million members. Our ability to personally speak to each one of them is now readily available to us. We had not historically invested in the technology necessary to do that. We do that fairly effectively today, and it'll get more effective over time. And technology helps us do that. We have the majority of our members use our app very regularly because it delivers real consumer benefit. Our marketing offers are all available digitally, where they used to be digitally and on paper. Today, we've eliminated most of the paper for now, and we'll see if that comes back. But I think the next phase of this is even more engagement will come when we go to digital checkout. I've often said, and you've heard me speak about this, I think my children will laugh at cash registers the way I chuckle at seeing a phone booth. You remember putting quarters into a payphone in order to check your voicemail way back when.
Right.
But we don't do that anymore. I think our children will chuckle about cash registers that way. But there's some work to be done between here and there to get to that reality. So that's where we're heading.
When you think about personalization and localization, what's the opportunity in terms of twofold? One, not only products in clubs, but also services.
Yeah, I think in our business, it's interesting. As we have improved our assortment technology, it has allowed us to be much more unique club by club. Let me give you a really simple example. We have 25% of our businesses in the city of New York, in the boroughs. And in many of those cases, 5 and 6 years ago, we were selling lawn and garden and trampolines in communities that generally don't have yards. So that's a silly example, but it's indicative of how much better we can be in terms of localizing. Today, it's a much different assortment in general merchandise in those clubs versus something 25 miles away in the suburbs on Long Island or in the suburbs of New Jersey. And we've done a better job, but there's so much more to go. At the core of our assortment, we sell big packages of products at really good prices. So we're going to probably be selling Tide, Bounty, Dawn dish liquid, chicken, lettuce at really big packages for low prices for a long, long time. But on the margin, our ability to get smarter about sizing, colors, and certain categories, depending on city versus suburb, I think is a compelling growth prospect for our company in the future.
If we think about the assortment, how have relationships changed with the suppliers and vendors over this time period? And how do you think about kind of new product innovation and rollout and the purpose of the store for that?
One of the things we did in our most recent earnings call, Deb, was make sure we spent a minute thanking all of our suppliers. And if any of them are on here, I think we live in a world where not many people say thank you. And I want to, on behalf of our company, say thank you to any supplier who was on this call for helping us. We were all in a difficult situation doing the best we can. And we were in a bit of uncharted waters. And overall, the supplier community was extraordinary. For us, the biggest change is the number of, this, given some of your apparel background, but there's a lot of brands out there who don't necessarily want to be assorted in a club for all the reasons you can imagine. We are pushy on pricing, and we try and create value. That's a very elegant way to say that, huh? We're pushy on pricing. But the way we think about it is we charge admission to shop in our clubs, so the show better be good. People only pay a membership because we give them great products and at great prices. One of the things that's been really interesting is the number of suppliers who have come to us as some of their other customers haven't been open, looking to try and figure out a way to do business that works for them and works for us. So we have been encouraged by that. The other thing is the new categories that have been created. We will have a very, very large PPE business by the end of the year. We have it today, but the way it's running, it'll be one of our larger categories. So on that basis, I think there'll be new categories created as a result of this, and we'll have new suppliers available to us.
So the show must go on, but it sounds like it'll get better. And the price of admission is, kind of just the beginning. Along those lines, right, there used to be, if we think about kind of the clubs, I mean, it really is kind of a show, and the consumer goes in and they never know what they're going to expect. How do you think that, clubs change in the future, and how does their role change in the community as well?
Yeah, I think the biggest visual thing in club stores is sampling. So many of us, it's a fun place to go to look at a store around lunchtime because you get really well fed. Guilty as charged. I don't know the days of us, Deb, cutting up a hamburger or a hot dog and giving it to children in a cart are probably gone for the foreseeable future. So that's probably the most visual thing. But the other thing is that I think you'll end up with our home improvement business is been doing very, very well as people do more DIY projects at home. And I think the services overall will continue to morph as we work our way through the situation our country is in right now.
Thank you. And you mentioned earlier that, kind of protein prices were up 20%. How does, as someone who's studied the food industry for a long time, right, price in one category goes up, another category starts to benefit. What have you seen in terms of demand from consumers with regards to alternate categories? And how are you also helping them kind of think through, kind of protein and all of that?
Yeah, it's interesting as you look at protein overall, you see a lot of switching across that's price driven. If beef goes up, people shift to chicken or pork. The inverse is true as well. In this case, there has been more supply pressure. Most of the beef and pork have been challenged because of some of the sad situations in processing facilities in the Midwest. But what that is pressured demand on other meat types. So protein overall has been in short supply as a result of some of the issues that everybody has seen in the press. So we think that's getting marginally better. We've also dealt with some egg shortages because it's just hard to make them fast enough when demand goes up, because regardless of egg prices, eggs are generally always cheap protein. So right now, meat seems to be in better shape. Eggs are certainly in a bit better shape than they were a month ago. But the challenge right now is we have essentially run through the vegetable supply in the United States. So canned vegetables are almost impossible to get. We plant them a couple times a year, and they get canned in August. And so as the supply comes available, we'll be back in stock. But there's going to be tricky supply situations through the system in a variety of categories for the foreseeable future.
So as some of those challenges are prevented, how does the role of the associate change as customers are asking questions, and also how can they then, offer up other ideas or, solutions to the customer?
Sure. We're doing the best we can, but the reality is, Deb, this thought of empathy, I think, is a primary leadership quality that is going to be more important in the future than it has been in the past. People are anxious when they go in stores. Heck, I make my living being in club stores, and there's some anxiety today that there wasn't there a couple of months ago. So when people are anxious and then they see they can't get the canned vegetable they want, they can't get the chicken they want, they can't get the beef they want, makes it worse, not better. So we're trying to help our people, give them as much information as we can. We are trying to help our members understand when supplies are available as best we can, but it's not a perfect science because sometimes we don't know exactly. But because it's fair to say when the paper shortages were going on, we would sell out of trucks of paper in the first 30 minutes a club was open. So full trucks were disappearing right from they never got to the shelves because we just put it out on pallets. And so as best we can, we're trying to give people information that they can use to make decisions on when they shop and where they shop. And we'll do the best we can, but it's an imperfect science at best.
Last question for me, and then we'll turn it over to audience Q&A, is as consumers, continue to, are either new to a club, are new to shopping online, or, kind of pick up, how are you seeing kind of just where they shop and how they shop? How's that changing? And is that putting any pressure on the system?
A little more texture on the question. So where they shop and when they shop, excuse me.
Yep. So as they're kind of moving more to online or more to delivery, and right, as you mentioned earlier, the rate of growth is truly exponential. How are you finding that they are expecting, right? What's their level of expectations, and how are you kind of meeting those?
Yeah. Look, the sales performance the company has delivered is in the last couple of months, and we've said publicly that it's continued into the second quarter. It has been really a function of all the work we've done in the last 5 years to try and improve the performance of our business. And one of the things that I think is real and will last is trip consolidation. The idea of shopping in a couple of places over the course of a week is less likely in this environment than it has ever been in the last 15 or 20 years. And as you think about trip consolidation in a club store, first of all, they're big, they have wide aisles, they have big packages that allow people to stock up, and the prices are low. That combination is a terrific set of capabilities that we bring to the table that will have consumers choosing us and other club stores, I think, for the foreseeable future. Because the idea of stopping here for this and stopping there for that is probably less likely in a world where people don't want to be in public all that much. So in addition, this whole, the investments we've made that have been substantial in improving our omni capabilities have really paid off in a fairly substantial way. Our delivery business grew by 8-fold in the quarter, and it's continuing to grow very rapidly. But I think we'll continue to be pressured to do more and do it more quickly for our members, which is just fine by us.
Great. All right, we'll turn it to audience Q&A.
Sure.
We have a lot of questions, so thank you, everyone. And if you have any additional, please submit at this time. With the changes in consumer behavior, and we may have already answered this, but how does this impact the supply side and the supply chain?
Yeah, I think the biggest change is the pressure it'll put on every retailer's ability to do home delivery. That's, as you think about the biggest changes in, the supply chain of 30 years ago was focused on the store. Now our supply chains are more focused on every household in America. How do you get things right to the household versus get it to a store? So that's probably the biggest structural change. And the other things I think will be, is we've seen suppliers really pressure their choices on variety. Quite a few suppliers have eliminated things like colors and flavors and things like soaps and paper towels. In a world where you can't supply all the demand, why do you need 6 colors of paper towels or 6 patterns in a paper towel? And why do you need 7 or 8 or 6 or 7 flavors of liquid soap? Let's go with the core. And I think you'll see some of that last, and that'll certainly impact the supply chain. In food, I don't think we broke the supply chain, but we pushed it about as far as it could go. And when you think about it, we were dealing with a pandemic, a dramatic change in consumer behavior based on capacity restraints and people's lack of willingness to go out. And then you added protein shortages to it. We pushed the supply chain about as far as you can push it. And I think that has created some learnings that'll be applied in the future, and we'll see what that brings.
Thank you. And next question, it's a good one. How will loyalty and loyalty programs evolve through and post the current crisis?
Yeah, I think that the membership model is the ultimate loyalty program. This is not just about signing up for a membership for a card at a register that you put on your keychain. or put an app on. We have people who spend $55 for the privilege of $55 or $110 for the privilege of shopping with us, and it gives us the ultimate ability to communicate directly with each and every one of them, because in order to do a purchase at our clubs, you have to swipe a card. So therefore, we know what everybody buys, and we do a lot of work to correlate shopping behavior so that if my family bought a whole bunch of protein but no vegetables, we can market vegetables to me, and if your family, Deb, did the opposite, we could do the opposite from a marketing perspective. So the ability to, it's a bit of the holy grail of personalization in that we have every single purchase that everybody's ever made. And our ability to continue to use that to drive improved loyalty, because when we're giving people what they want, when they want, marketing to them around those needs, it's a very valuable tool for us.
That actually dovetails nicely into the next question, which is, with the halt of demonstrations and paper coupons, what will BJ's strategy be to bring awareness to items that are promoted and new items? I mean, is there an opportunity to use the loyalty program, right? I mean, it's efficient for suppliers, efficient for BJ's. Maybe talk through that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think just for safety, Deb, we used to have some paper coupons, and we've temporarily suspended them, and people can get them on their app. So I think you'll see a lot of innovation in the ability to speak to members right through their app and through their emails, which has the open rates and the usage rates on the app and emails has been dramatically accelerated. I also think we'll end up doing a much better job on our in-club signing package, which our team is working on as we speak. All three of those things will be a part of how we communicate more effectively.
Great. And this is a pretty general question, but what kind of tech will BJ's be looking at moving forward?
Yeah, interesting. Other than all of it, I think the big things in my mind is how can you make the trip more convenient? Right now, the lens through which we have judged our technology spend has been all about convenience. Because if you think about the holy grail of retail, it's the idea of great prices, great assortment, and great convenience. If you can get all three, we think we have a terrific assortment. We think we have terrific prices. But let's be real. Before the pandemic, and even during the pandemic, club store shopping isn't all that convenient. It's 100,000 square foot boxes, and it takes a little while to go through it. And in some cases, long lines. So as we have continued to improve our technology, things like delivery options, pickup in club options, pickup at curb options, pick up curb with fresh options, and then I think that the real trump card will be when we are able to do cashier-free checkout, so people can use their phones. The shrink challenges in that for every retailer are really, really high. So we're trying to figure out how to do that best.
A good, very open-ended question for you is, how does BJ's meaningfully differentiate itself versus the rest of the retail landscape?
Sure. I think that as you think about this through the lens of a consumer, 6 years ago, and then we've refreshed it a couple of times since, when I started at BJ's, we spent some time understanding, getting a really deep understanding of the consumer and how our members viewed us. The really simple answer to that is we sell about 2 times more fresh food per member per year than our club store competitors do. So fresh food is what differentiates us. And as you think about that, that's why, we put up a 27 comp. It beat our club store competitors by a lot in the last couple of quarters, and it's continued. And as you think about that, that's probably the primary differentiator between us and our competitors. We also do general merchandise a little bit differently in that we think a little bit more about broader category assortment and general merchandise, and it's served us well so far. There's always opportunities for us to do better, though.
Question for me, how do you work with local farmers if we think about kind of fresh produce? And I mean, I think BJ's has always had an amazing assortment. What kind of relationships have you built, and how do you see those extending into the future? It's
something we're good at. We think we can be a lot better at it. So whether it's New Jersey tomatoes or some of the great fall produce in New England, we can do and Florida oranges, we can do so much of a better job in localizing our produce assortment. We have to do a lot of work in the underlying operational capabilities to do fresh really, really well over the last 5 years, and we've done a lot of that work. So we feel very good about how we show up in fresh. The next evolution is going to be how do we localize it even more. It's something we're just starting, and we can do so much better.
Great. All right, this is going to be our last question. There's many, but I'll pick a good one. How do you recreate the treasure hunt aspect online for e-commerce shopping?
Yeah, I think that the fundamental premise of online shopping is in fact the treasure hunt, and I think one of the things that the core capability we've had. Think about it as 5 years ago, we didn't even have a functioning website, which was a shame, but we had a lot of work to do to get our core omni capability up and going. And the website has been incredibly productive in the last couple of years, and that's accelerated. And the ability to do blasts and flash sales, I think, is going to be get even better going forward, which will be a great way to play around with this idea of the treasure hunt.
Great. Chris, thank you so much for your insights today, as always, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Deb, thanks so much. Stay well.